took something significant to happen before he became an advocate for freedom. If you see these individuals there, those are people he was sending philanthropy to. He was sending money to. He was giving assistance to. But one day, the jihadists invaded his community and killed several of them and beheaded them.
There was a commotion there in Finland during the protests today in Helsinki, to be precise. We saw, the Biafran youth finally confronting Peter Ombá and David Umahi reportedly at the Helsinki airport there in Finland, and it was so shocking because, according to reports, it's as if the FG is planning to use Peter Ombá and Umahi to truncate Simon Ekpa's freedom, thereby meeting with the judge to interfere or intercede, changing the outcome for Simon Ekpa's freedom. And a lot of people are not happy with this. Ombá and Umahi being attacked by the youth. What do you think? What's your take as regards this?
Well, let me just put it very clearly. At the Helsinki airport, that airport is about 100 meters to Lahti, where the protest is actually taking place. But there were so many influx of Biafrans all over the world. People were coming from different locations, and there was tension just virtually everywhere ahead of but to have spotted perceived enemies at that Helsinki airport, about 100 kilometers to Lahti, where the Simon Ekpa's court appearance, and protests actually, took place with a lot of people coming from different parts of the world. We have the Israelis there, we have the Americans there, we have the Asians, just virtually everybody, to tell you how deep, as you can see in this video. So but at that point, it looks like, as being reported, that a lot of people, there was a commotion, there was a coincidence, a circumstance that lead to that what is this people doing here. Then there was this suspicion that these are people who actually want to still go out there and begin to see how they can continue to lobby to manipulate, or try to create an impression, or try to see how they can find their way to the government of Finland under Alexander Stubb, to manipulate, or to prep, or to seek, or to so it is perceived that we are federal government delegates who we are coming with a different agenda. What would they be doing? And these are people who have stood against Simon Ekpa over the years, especially the governor of Enugu State. And of course, we know the position of Umahi recently. The Simon Umahi at a point insisted, during the days of Mazi Nnamdi Kanu's, rally of almost all the eastern region, the Biafran state regions at that time, where he was moving from one place to another. The same moment he declared that he doesn't want to see Mazi Nnamdi Kanu in Ebonyi State, and these are the people who also organized the Operation Python dance against Mazi Nnamdi Kanu, when even there were resolutions on what to do when Mazi Nnamdi Kanu was actually released. So spotting them in a place where people are coming in, the protest is already going on, but Simon Ekpa must be freed, maybe sensing that the Finland government, coupled with the presence of over 127 EU representatives and lawyers at that place, triggered a kind of commotion, and they have to be, intercepted. They intercepted them at the Helsinki airport there, and there was a lot of, even to an extent, the Finland security could not be able to help matter. They insisted, that they can not be able to have access to the government. What is their mission at this point in time? Over the years, they have not been spotted there. So what are they actually coming to do in Finland at this point in time? So these are what actually triggered that, another suspicion that they want to play a certain game this time around, and they met a heavy, resistance. And from what we are hearing, I think we'll later discover that they were prevented from even staying within the environment of Finland, and most of them they find their way. I think they find their way to the next neighboring country. We are hearing they find their way to maybe through train or whatever to Norway, and maybe from there they will return to Nigeria to tell whoever that sent them that Nefa Aderosi, they cannot be able to access. The Biafrans have occupied everywhere in Finland.
But we've seen over the years, Pitamba have always said, ECPA must be extradited. That's why a lot of, protesters there today in Finland were saying, no, this can't work, because we've seen Pitamba accuse ECPA of buying a lot of Biafrans through his action, through his words, and it's our time that Simon ECPA is being extradited. That's why a lot of us are saying Pitamba now is in, Finland just to extradite, make sure that Simon ECPA is finally brought back to Nigeria. I said ECPA is a scammer. He has reaped a lot of people of their money. Do you think Pitamba and Umahi will finally make it? We see to that to make sure that Simon ECPA has been extradited to Nigeria.
I think it has to do with law. I know all the allegations they were able to come up with against Simon ECPA at the end of the day had been proven to be very unfortunate. Just like recently, where we saw a series of invasion by the military, Fulani military around eastern, in Nigeria. Ever since that. Simon ECPA was, illegally, detained. Thousands of Biafrans has been killed. So how would they link that again to, Simon ECPA? But the fact still remains that, these are the people who has compromised because of what they are getting from the government of Nigeria. As simple as that. They know inside their conscience, that what is happening. Most of them cannot even come out to tell Nigerians who, tell the whole world, Biafrans who are killing them on daily basis. So they now sat down, when they go to the Federal Executive Council meeting, they will still want to see how the pressure will keep on coming upon them, that these are people of that extraction, and you as governor there must take a decision to make sure. So their presence is not needed at all there, and people read a lot of meaning into what is Umahi and Pitamba actually doing in this. Of course, it's no longer possible for Simon ECPA to be extradited to Nigeria. But the fact is that because there's no law, they don't have that treaty between Finland and, of course, not now that there is global awareness of injustice done to, there will be resistance to it by the EU nations. That is very, very correct. But, their mission in Finland, it was suspected to be trying to, engineer the court process, or trying to lobby or find their way to present another perspective of lobbying, or trying to bribe their way, because they know that the freedom of Simon ECPA will mean doom definitely for them.
It will mean doom. Okay, but aside, Pitamba and Umahi, we learned that Bianca and Tunyojo might be, arriving any moment from now. Do you think that Bianca will regret this move by going against Simon ECPA and Simon ECPA and Biafrans? Because it's been reported that over 3,000 Biafrans have lost their lives since ECPA was arrested. What's your take as regards? Do you think Bianca will regretting taking this step?
Of course, this we are suspected people that I connive with the Finland government over when that pressure as at that time and that judgment came. Bianca will be able to tell herself the truth, and Tunde Ojo should also be able to tell herself the truth, including CDS Musa, Christopher Musa, the likes of Malami and the rest of them. We can see, where they are today. But the fact is that, where people being massacred by the same Fulani, the answer is yes. Is Biafra land being invaded by these people? The answer is yes. And then what is the justification? You see, they have a way of manipulating the way they manipulated, Bianco Juku and the rest of them because he was the Minister of State for Foreign Affairs, even when he was there. But unfortunately now, they cannot be able to find their foot anymore within the European Union or the international community because the issue of Nigeria has attracted, a global attention where people are now asking questions. Well, Simon Ekpa at this point in time, has been celebrating himself. From what we hear, is in good spirit, and from people that have met him, before final, release of Simon Ekpa, had a very clear message. And what the message he is talking about, he's saying is that, I am coming out. You will see another part of the other side of me. I am coming out. You will see the other side of me. And this is what the federal government doesn't want to see happen. Now, what do they think they will do? They are sending a lot of people there. But, these are prominent faces that came under serious attack at the airport. And the questions is, what are they doing in Finland at that time? So that suspicion is what, triggered a lot of commotion in that airport, that they have to be chased out completely from Helsinki airport, to London. Most of them find their way back to Norway, maybe to reinforce or whatever it is, But I think the people who are leading this protest, and of course, the EU lawyers are on ground, are saying that it is either the free Simon Ekpa or the Finland will be shut down completely.
But this is shutting down Finland embassy in the 27-member nation of the EU. Do you think this can propel the Finnish government to finally release Simon Ekpa if the rule is being is being attended to by the EU members, shutting down all 27 embassies in Finland, in Europe? Do you think this is feasible?
And that is why they are there now, because evidence will be provided. Yes, there's different acts, and there are different charters, and there are aspects of the law that will be interpreted in that regard, with evidence tendered, as exhibit. But I think from what we are hearing, that the Finland government is already cooperating with the team of lawyers that came from EU, being part of EU too. And if by any means anything goes wrong, they have already made it known that it will trigger, if Simon Ekpa is not being released, it will trigger that Finland embassies in 27 EU nations will be totally, shut down as a punishment for the illegality and the suspicious, illegal pronouncement on judgment on somebody who were just defending his own people against existential threats by this jihadist government of Nigeria. And the question is, the Finland government should have asked themselves, why is the world talking about Biafra now? Why is the world talking about Christian genocide in Nigeria? Why is it being mentioned in the European Parliament? What is America doing? Why is it that the American Congress is speaking about it? What is happening to Israel and other countries of the world? Alexander Stubb cannot tell me that he is blind, in all this. So they have already sent him a signal. If he fails to conclude and set Ekpa free for the continuation of the Biafran struggle, then the European Parliament and Union are telling him very clearly there will be automatic shutdown of Finland embassies in 27 EU nations, and that is a clear-cut message to the Finnish government under Alexander Stubb. But I can tell you, Monipa is in good spirit, and he has warmed up himself to that extent. I learned that the team of lawyers has actually met him, and modalities are being worked out. And he sent a message that I'm coming out. You are going to see the other part of me, and I think it's a direct message to because it is clear that the process of that court was compromised based on Nigerian government interventions and manipulations in that regard.